the secret bone density trigger most people overlook. Until it is too late, our bones are not the static, passive structures most people imagine. They are living tissue, continuously breaking down and rebuilding, responding to mechanical signals, hormonal changes, and nutritional inputs every single day of your life. And right now, there is a trigger that determines whether your bones are net building or net losing. A trigger that most people have never heard of, that your doctor almost never tests for, and that begins failing silently in your 30s. Before osteoporosis becomes visible on a scan decades later. By the time a bone density scan shows a problem, you have already lost between 25 and 40% of your bone mass. The window to prevent that loss was years earlier. Today we are going to show you exactly where that window is and how to keep it open. To understand bone density, you first need to understand the two cell types that control it. Osteoblasts are your bone-building cells. They synthesize new bone matrix, deposit calcium and phosphate, and create the structural density that keeps your skeleton strong. Osteoclasts are your bone-dissolving cells. They break down old or damaged bone tissue, releasing minerals back into the bloodstream for other biological uses. In a healthy young adult, osteoblast activity slightly exceeds osteoclast activity. The skeleton gains density through your 20s, reaching peak bone mass around age 30. After 30, the balance begins to shift. Osteoclast activity gradually outpaces osteoblast activity. Net bone loss begins, slowly at first, then accelerating after 50, and dramatically accelerating in women after menopause when estrogen, a powerful suppressor of osteoclast activity, drops. Sharply. The trigger that most people overlook sits at the center of this osteoblast-osteoclast balance. And it is not calcium. It is mechanical load. Your bones contain specialized cells called osteocytes, former osteoblasts that became embedded in the bone matrix they created. Osteocytes are mechanosensors. They detect mechanical strain, the bending, compression, and tension that occurs when your skeleton bears weight or resists force. When osteocytes detect sufficient mechanical strain, they suppress osteoclast activity and stimulate osteoblast activity. The bone-building signal turns on. When mechanical strain is absent, as it is during prolonged sitting, sedentary lifestyle, or weightlessness, osteocytes reduce their signaling. Osteoclast activity is no longer suppressed. Bone breakdown accelerates. This is why astronauts lose significant bone density within weeks of entering zero gravity. This is why bedridden patients lose bone rapidly. And this is why walking, while beneficial for cardiovascular health, is largely insufficient for bone density protection after 40. Walking provides low-magnitude mechanical strain. Your osteocytes need high-magnitude strain to activate. The full bone-building response, the specific type of mechanical load that most powerfully stimulates osteocyte signaling, is impact and resistance, forces that exceed normal gravitational loading. Running, jumping, and resistance training with progressive overload all generate the magnitude of strain that osteocytes respond to most strongly. Research consistently shows that high impact and resistance training increases bone mineral density in the spine, hip, and femoral neck, the three sites most critical for fracture prevention. While low-impact exercise like swimming and cycling, despite their cardiovascular benefits, produce minimal bone density response, the dose matters. For bone density stimulus, you need resistance training that progressively increases load over time. The same progressive overload principle that builds muscle. Bone responds to novel stress. Once it adapts to a given load, that load no longer provides sufficient stimulus. You must continue increasing the challenge. Vitamin D is the second overlooked trigger, but not in the way most people think. Most people know vitamin D supports calcium absorption. This is true but incomplete. Vitamin D, specifically its active hormonal form, calcitriol, directly regulates osteoblast differentiation and activity. Without sufficient calcitriol, osteoblasts cannot mature properly. The bone-building machinery exists, but cannot operate efficiently. Vitamin D deficiency is extraordinarily common, estimated to affect over 1 billion people globally. Most people living in northern latitudes, working indoors, or consistently using sunscreen are chronically deficient without knowing it. Standard reference ranges for vitamin D sufficiency begin at 20 nanograms per milliliter, but emerging research suggests optimal bone-building activity requires levels between 40 and 60 nanograms per milliliter, a threshold most people never reach. Vitamin K2 works alongside vitamin D in a mechanism that most supplementation protocols completely ignore. Vitamin K2 activates osteocalcin, a protein produced by osteoblasts that binds calcium and directs it specifically into bone matrix rather than allowing it to deposit in arterial walls. Without K2, supplemental calcium and vitamin D, they may increase bone mineral density marginally while simultaneously. Why increasing arterial calcification risk? K2 is the traffic director that ensures calcium goes where it belongs. Collagen is the third trigger. Bone is not primarily calcium. Approximately 35% of bone by weight is collagen, specifically type 1 collagen, the protein scaffold that gives bone its flexibility and fracture resistance. Calcium provides hardness. Collagen provides the structural framework that prevents shattering under impact. As collagen production declines with age, driven by falling estrogen, testosterone, and growth hormone, bone becomes progressively more brittle even if mineral density appears adequate on a scan. A bone with good mineral density, but degraded collagen scaffold breaks more easily than one with slightly lower density, but intact collagen architecture. Adequate protein intake. Minimum 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight. Provides the amino acids required for collagen synthesis. Vitamin C is the essential cofactor for collagen cross-linking. Without vitamin C, collagen chains cannot form the bonds that give them structural integrity. The window for bone density protection is not at 65 when a skin finally reveals a problem. It is in your 30s and 40s when the osteoblast-osteoclast balance begins shifting, and the mechanical, hormonal, and nutritional inputs that favor osteoblasts still have decades of biological potential. To work with start resistance training, increase the load progressively, optimize vitamin D to the upper range of sufficiency, add vitamin K2, Maintain adequate protein and vitamin C. These are not aging interventions. They are maintenance protocols for tissue that has been quietly deteriorating. Since you turned 30, subscribe. Every week we publish this science they do not teach in waiting rooms. Drop a comment. Have you ever had a bone density scan?